Okay, hello everyone. While we wait for more of us to join on, feel free to start introducing yourself in the chat where you're tuning in from. We always like to hear who is on the call with us, and then we'll just give another minute or two for more of us to log in. And this is meant to be an interactive session, so please don't hesitate to share any questions in the chat, and we will try to address them if either during the session, and if not, we'll send a personalized follow-up and answer your question. And all right, in order to keep on time, I think we should start getting going. So my name is Andrea Sunara. I'm your customer experience manager here at Contentsquare. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining our next installment of our data products webinar series. Today we will do a brief data products overview. Someone's screen share change. One second, sorry. And there we go. Sorry about that. So we'll do a brief data products overview, and then we'll dive right into today's topic of field analytics. So if you missed our last sessions on frustration score and or our more in-depth data products overview, you can check out those recordings in our community. They're available to you always over there, and you can always in community see our upcoming events as well. Maya, if you can drop some of the community links in there for those past recordings, if anyone missed it, they can join in. So before I introduce you to today's speakers, if you've attended some of our other sessions, you know what's coming up now. We'd love it if you could answer a reviews poll that's about to pop up momentarily. Hearing from all of you helps us build better programs and benefits you. We always appreciate your honest feedback. If you are happy with Contentsquare or just want to leave us some feedback, please let us know via the poll and indicate as such, and we'll follow up with our reviews platform. And if you don't know, every review you leave us gets you 60 loyalty points, which eventually you could cash out for either a charitable donation or some goodies on our site. All right, so let me introduce you to our two speakers today, and then we can get this data products party started. Our first speaker is Contentsquare's very own worldwide VP of Field Innovations, Jason Miller. With over 25 years in the technology space, Jason held positions such as Akamai's Chief Strategist of Commerce and 15 years as Chief Technology Officer for Motorcycle Superstore, which is a top 200 internet retailer. So you'll be in great hands today with Jason. For our second speaker, we welcome Jack Boree, Chief Marketing Officer with one of our partners, the UBIX Labs. Jack is a marketing and product executive with broad experience ranging from SaaS and financial services to DTC, e-com, and digital agency. Over the course of his career, Jack has driven massive growth for a variety of companies ranging from Incorporated 500 to Global 2000. Welcome, Jack. And now, without further ado, I'll kick it over to you, Jason, to tell us some about field analytics.
Great. Hey, everyone. I'm going to kill this video and share my screen. One of the ways we've been starting these off is to actually do a really quick recap of where we are so that we can walk through the data that we've already shared. So I'm going to do like a 2-minute recap here of what we've shared in the previous 2 webinars, and that's a raw data export. So raw data export is the base of what we do at Contentsquare. It's like all the data that goes into the back end to build a lot of the applications you see. And right now, that data export has 78 page level data points. And like I pointed out in our last webinar, we've just recently added additional 5 speed analysis data points here. Now you can look at some of the difference in, like you would from Google Lighthouse, and match this data up with anything else. Obviously, our goal with these different data exports is always to be able to augment all the other points of data that you're capturing in your data stack. So pushing these out to BI tools, being able to cross-reference with your Adobe data or your Google Analytics data, or even being able to use it with offline metrics for omni-channel optimization. The other thing we spoke about in the last webinar was frustration score export. So frustration score, for those of you who didn't see that, is an actual score that we articulate based on all this different criteria that we capture, and we give you a range of 0 to 100%, so that you can look at how that frustration score is affecting your customer experience over time, build KPIs with it, or because we actually give you each individual element that goes into building the score, actually building your own custom score. And so each one of these data products extends off of raw data export. So raw data export adds to frustration export and so on. And so the one thing I want to remind everyone here is each one of these page view level data points actually has a replay link tied to it. So you can actually jump right into a replay after you've drilled down into the data. So always think that all this raw data has ways to come back into the Contentsquare application, let you view replays, build custom segments on those frustration scores or whatever it may be. And I won't go into all the detail again here, but like I said, obviously getting this data into your data warehouse or your BI tools, building custom dashboards, executive KPI dashboards, great use case of this, watch your site across time, how frustration score is affecting your, whether it's checkout or flow through the website. And the last one we'll touch on real quickly here that we did in the last one is live signals. And this is taking some of these frustration metrics and actually making them available in real time. So rage clicks, excessive hovering, all these things can be sent to any backend system you have to interact and actually trigger an action. Say it's an Optimizely test, or it's a chat window or a voice of customer. Also, like we spoke about last time, and we'll get into a little bit further, is some of the fraud signaling you can do with this. Excessive pasting, excessive reloads, things that just look out of sorts, and you want to start signaling to your fraud engine that there may be something there. And lastly, the ad blocking technology, because sometimes a misconfigured ad blocker will actually make parts of your site not show up. A lot of different things that can happen there. So being able to segment your tests and different things based on if you know an ad blocker is present can help you optimize for those experiences. And like I said, this can be pushed out to any other third party. We have an integration with Telium if you want to look at that in the last session, where we talked about how we take this data in real time and push it into Telium's event stream or CDP or whatever it is. But we also integrate with a lot of other third parties to directly be able to instigate, actions based off of this data. So with that quick overview, and all those webinars are available on the same link you came in here if you want to watch those again. But on that, we'll jump right into field analytics. So what is field analytics? And we briefly touched on this in our last webinar, but this is the most granular level data of a user's interaction on your form with those actual fields. And there's over 50 different data points here that we share. And once again, I want to point out that all of this data is at a page view level, and it can all go back to an actual CS application replay. So you can actually go filter down, build your segments in another platform, merge it with your offline data, and then go actually watch these replays of how users actually interacted. So I won't read off every individual element here. I just want to put these on here so people download the webinar later. What I do want to do is I want to talk about some of the key ones that we've actually implemented with different customers and get everyone thinking about what if you had this piece of data to augment your other third-party data streams. And so there is a lot of granular data here. And when we think about this, we've got the regular data you would see like device and URLs and things like that, but we've also got the actual XPath to an element that triggered this event. We've got things like the actual speed of typing, how many times did they try to submit a form? How many times they fail? What was the success rate? So that you can build other segments based off of these user interactions, and then take that data to another endpoint to augment it. So I'm going to go over a couple of what I think are pretty interesting use cases and samples, and then Jack, and I won't steal all his thunder, is going to go into some really deep ones of how UBIX is taking this from a data science standpoint and really doing some cool and unique things with it. So let's jump into a couple analytics samples here. And I can't see the chat, so if there's a question in the chat, go ahead and interrupt me so that I can answer a question, because with the presenter view, I can't see the chat. So one of the things you can do And I'm gonna, at the bottom, you'll notice I've kind of listed the actual element in the field analytics data export of how you would actually see this data. So one of the things you can do is build cohorts based on time. So there's a lot of different ways to look at this. You can build cohorts based on time from a customer experience standpoint and look at, okay, well, I want to go segment by these users who are taking, say, over 6 to 7 minutes or geez, over 10 minutes to try to fill out and complete the form. And I want to go see what's wrong with their experience. Where are they getting hung up? You know, what sort of problems are making them so far outlie the rest of the group here, where we see the, you know, the average is between 2 and 3 minutes. The majority of the users fall into that place for this sample form that we're looking at here. So that's kind of the customer experience side. But if we want to look at some other stuff, and Jack will get into this in a little more detail, is looking for bots or scripts. So, you know, say it takes the average human at least, you know, 30 seconds to a minute to fill out your form. Well, if you see a whole lot of form fill outs that are like sub-seconds, this is probably something along a bot or a script, or even building cohorts that match. So if someone's running a script against your site for credential stuffing or something along those lines, where they're just trying to fill stuff in over and over again, but they always take exactly the same amount of time to complete, you can actually start grouping those up. So there's lots of different ways that you can utilize this data. I'm just trying to get everyone's, you know, thought juices flowing of how you could optimize other data sets with this. So another interesting one that I like is the idea of different bounce types. So a lot of times when a user first comes to your form, the browser will set focus and put them into a field, say it's first name or whatever it may be. And then that user actually bounces. Well, you don't really know that that user was a soft or a hard bounce unless you can actually see if they started typing in the form and interacting with the form. And I'll go into this a little bit more in another slide of how you kind of extend that. But thinking about this, you're able to identify soft and hard bounces, also interactors that bounced. So people that really wanted to fill out the form, but they failed. So if you wanted to retarget these people, you wanted to build a segment and put it into some sort of retargeting campaign, the people that bounced without filling out any part of the form, probably less valuable spending your time on that than it is to go spend time on those people who they got halfway through the form and then failed to fill it out. Another interesting thing along that same line of thought is hesitation. So sometimes when you put things in your form, it may make perfect sense to you why you need that piece of information and why you're asking for it. But with hesitation, we can see which fields customers actually stopped before they filled out. So ones that made them think about it, either it was confusing or it was a data they didn't want to share or data they didn't have. We've seen some interesting examples along this where it's like a form that asked for a driver's license number, and it didn't really make sense why you needed to have your driver's license number in this particular form. And all the users hesitated at that because they questioned it, why it wasn't there. So the customer went in, our end customer went in and said, hey, you know what? We don't really have to have the driver's license at this point in the flow. Let's take it out. And then they improved the flow of people filling out that form. Other ones are like, if you ask for something that they may not have, like their spouse's social security number, or even their own social security number, where they're like, I don't know if I want to share that with this website. How much do I trust them? So then you've got to do something on building trust of why you need that data. But hesitation is one of the ways to look at that. Another interesting one to look at is being able to see where they struggle within the form. And this kind of goes together with hesitation. So being able to look at which field the customer is in the form last and where they didn't submit is one way to look at, did they get an error? Did they get confused? Were they like our first customer and they interacted and got to something and they didn't want to fill it out? Now you can take this calculation and you look at where there weren't types of submit. You can also look at where there were submits, because this is going to help you highlight, say there's a JavaScript error. One of the common ones we see a lot is that a JavaScript error pops up and it's not very obvious. Now this example where I've got the big red box, that's pretty obvious, but I'm sure everyone's filled out a form where you think you've done it, you complete, you hit submit. Somewhere in the form, there's a tiny light red asterisk next to something and the customer doesn't see it and they don't know why they can't fill it out. So you can look at this kind of struggle and you can look at how many times they hit the submit button to start being able to figure out, okay, I need to go optimize it. That error message is not obvious enough to the customer. Another thing that we were just talking about is looking at, field drop. And so we have the concept of, where they are last in the form, but also the block index, which is the order of the form. And then we have a metric called submit success. And that's a count of how did they actually click the submit button, and can be configured to track, did they land on the page that you expected them to? So not just tracking that the submit was successfully on the JavaScript side or on the web page side, but did the next page load in that person's page flow? Did they get to the checkout thank you page? Did they get to a terms and condition page? Did they actually end up where you expected them to? And then you can actually build cohorts based on that. So a lot of the times when we look at these different metrics, and the reason I'm kind of demonstrating them like this is hopefully it's kind of obvious that you can start stacking them on top of each other to build lots of different use cases and segments to think about, how they're actually interacting with that field or form and where they're getting hung up. Is it operator error in this sense is taking them 10 minutes to finish it, or is there some field they're just not wanting to fill out, not getting through? But being able to track this gives you the ability to get very granular with this and build some very unique segments. And the last one I want to touch on here is the concept of autocomplete. And I know that Jack is going to talk about a couple things with bots and scripts and potential fraud. So I'm just going to touch on this one very briefly. But the idea that autocomplete is a more normal user behavior. Now, when we had the earlier slide, we talked about, fraud and live signals and multiple copy and paste and multiple reloads. You can actually add this data together. So if they used autocomplete, they're going to fill out the form very fast. So you can take a time cohort and say, oh, look at all these legit users that used autocomplete and their time to completion was really low, and remove them from any calculation of bots or maliciousness. But you can also use this as a combination of saying, okay, look at all the users who didn't use autocomplete and how many times did those users go in and repetitively copy and paste something that looks like someone who's trying to do something, nefarious or out of sorts. Now, we've got some great examples here that Jack's going to share from the UBIX standpoint, and taking what I just demonstrated to you and kind of extending it out with other data sets and other algorithms. So I'll turn it over to Jack and let you jump into your examples, Jack.
Hey,
Thanks, Jason.
While we wait for Jack to go, we have a question in the chat. I don't think so, but do we integrate into Mutiny?
So from an integration standpoint, we didn't really do the demo introduction of my team, but I run the field innovations team. So we do a lot of custom integrations. So even if we don't have a direct integration in there now, it's definitely something that you could work with my team to get set up for you. And if we're talking about live signals, one step back, anything that has an API endpoint that we can hit HTTP, the live signals we'll integrate with, and field analytics comes offline. So it's a data feed. So generally we can integrate with anything outside of that. So it would just have to be looking at your particular type of integration.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Jason and Andrea, for the introduction. As both said, I'm Jack Boree. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at UBIX Labs, and I really appreciate you all making the next 10 to 15 minutes of your time available for us. For those of you who aren't already familiar with UBIX, I'll give a brief speed date introduction before I dive into some of the interesting things we're doing with field analytics. Amongst the many things that makes us unique, we are the only no-code end-to-end advanced analytics platform on the market. For business users, this means that we bring you closer to your data and give you a user-friendly control that you didn't have before. For the technical user, this means we supercharge you and your teams, making you look like heroes and advancing your abilities to drive change faster and with better return on investment for your organization. It's our mission to help medium to large organizations to become intelligent businesses. And to us, that means leveraging intelligent data and applications to their fullest, integrating internal and external data to fuel valuable insights, and providing foresight and intelligent action towards growth and expansion. UBIX stands for ubiquitous, and we have a broad purview that bridges all the way from ERP as partners of SAP, Sage, Acumatica, NetSuite, Oracle, Microsoft, and the like, to the marketing and customer experience solutions that we're talking about today. With that in mind, we found that most of the use cases that we support in our partnership with Contentsquare tend to revolve around these 4 quadrants: building a dynamic and truly 360-degree view of customer behavioral analytics, empowering funnel and conversion optimization, both online and on-premise, and omni-channel attribution and personalization, as well as our bot detection and cleansing models. This is what we like to call our shared Contentsquare UBIX ecosystem. We leverage our partnership with Contentsquare and data received through raw data export to combine that with a variety of external data sources and allow for modeling, shaping, and both descriptive as well as predictive analytics. With raw data export and field analytics, we can do some pretty amazing things, as Jason alluded to. We only have a short time together today, so we'll only be able to get through so much. But for today, I'd like to talk about how we leverage field analytics to derive success, abandonment, duration metrics, as well as some really interesting innovations we're making in partnership with Contentsquare around fraud scoring and dynamic audiencing.
Hey, John, or Jack, sorry, one quick thing I wanted to throw in there if anyone didn't catch it, is we actually have a connector with UBIX. So this is pretty much a pre-built integration to push the data from Contentsquare into UBIX.
Absolutely. And to add to that, in most situations, it's as simple as, the click of a few buttons to get set up. So it is a fairly simple and straightforward integration there. Thank you, Jason. So what you're looking at here are traffic and field analytics models showing the various pathways through a major financial services company's website. We refine that traffic through a variety of methods. The most important for today's conversation being our bot detection models that mark bot traffic and provide a clean and valuable view of customer behavior. Dynamic customer segmentation, which I'm going to get into a little bit later, success profiling, abandonment profiling, and then fraud scoring. And ultimately, while these may seem like descriptive analytics alone, they truly are features that have the ability to empower other downline solutions. If there are 2 things I hope that you take away from today's discussion, it's that context is key at any level of optimization, and that any score or descriptive analytics discussed here, frustration scoring, success scoring, abandonment, and fraud, are all so much more than just descriptive analytics. They are features that can be leveraged to empower other downline systems to make them smarter, faster, and much more valuable to your organization. One of the things we've done with field analytics has been to leverage both success and abandonment metrics, which we do through a detailed understanding of in-page events leading to conversion or abandonment. Not surprisingly, it's not always your highest traffic pages that convert best, and understanding success and abandonment based upon field analytics can provide some of that context I mentioned earlier about what success and abandonment actually mean on any given page and in any given field. Leveraging success and failure as features can provide answers to a significant number of questions and empower other systems to be more dynamic, incorporating the context of the behavior into the problem solving and optimization process. Abandonment may be as a result of a UX problem or bug, an engineering problem, but it might also be due to something behavioral, a hesitation, an insecurity, something characteristic of that person that should be important to you as the business person, or even the initial signs of potentially fraudulent behavior, as we'll talk about later. Like success and abandonment, our duration metrics provide descriptive analytics that detail the duration of views on any given page throughout the entire user journey. We break it down into fields that give insight into both UI, UX related challenges, as well as hesitancy and other behaviors within the question being asked. A great example of this is a large financial services company, a company's website, in which we observed hesitancy in certain fields. Typically, this might imply a bug or a UX problem, but there arose an interesting correlation between the type of field, the type of hesitancy, and the ultimate application approval rate. As it turns out, it was a behavioral problem. Customers were insecure about the income fields, and those who took more time or who made multiple corrections in those fields could be correlated with a lower application success rate. Ultimately, field analytics and our solutions models can provide for an understanding of customer behavior that was previously uncovered. In this case, allowing this company to optimize their customer experience towards expediting those most likely to qualify. I'll take a pause quickly here. Do we have any questions? I too can't see the chat.
No questions in the chat, Jack, so you're good to proceed.
Thank you so much. So dynamic audiencing, which we're very excited about, is our evolution of customer segmentation. Just a lot smarter, faster, and much more powerful for your organization. What you're looking at here is a cluster diagram of behaviors across a gigantic website. Big or small, our platform has the ability to reduce upwards of hundreds of thousands of unique URLs to just a few core web pages and pathways, and a handful of dynamic audiences. These are customer segments that are powered by that real-time signaling that Jason has spoken about. In the example that you see here, we reduced hundreds of thousands of unique URLs to just a few thousand genuinely unique pages. And amongst those pages emerged just 5 primary customer segments with some really interesting and substantial early indications of which of those groups showed the greatest interest. Leveraging that real-time signaling that Jason mentioned, we're able to provide dynamic audiencing not only for descriptive analysis, but to intelligently empower downline systems and dependencies. Remember, as I said before, every piece of descriptive analytics we work with can be leveraged as a feature to empower automation, other systems, and a whole lot more. And so, as you see here in this diagram, our platform ingests Contentsquare raw data and field analytics and provides shaping and modeling in our model space, which can then be pushed to our production space to productionize an application to make other downline systems like your content management system, your CRMs, your acquisitions platforms, ERP systems, so much more, more dynamic and valuable. Our fraud scoring model is an especially interesting twist on the context of web behavior that we've been talking about so far. What if the behavior on your site, the hesitation, the copy and paste instead of autofill, the repetitive submissions, or any other behaviors that clearly aren't just engineering related or just part of some user hesitancy, what we've found is that they're often fraudulent behaviors. And like frustration scoring, our fraud scoring model ranges from 0 to 100 and is determined based upon bot detection, engagement duration, struggle in field, typing duration, hesitation time, and a number of other parameters. And like with other descriptive analytics, this feature can be used as a REST endpoint to express real-time weighted fraud scoring to assist a variety of downline processes. Some of these examples being, blocking fraudulent form submissions from other processes, marking an order or form with a fraud score as a quantitative metric as part of a review process. The potential is kind of endless here. And using our no-code app builder, and this applies to every descriptive analytic that we provide, what I mentioned before in our production space, it's as simple as dragging and dropping field parameters to productionize ongoing real-time weighted fraud scoring applications, frustration scoring applications, any number of things that empower your other downline processes and systems. And that really gets us to the end of our field analytics presentation for today. There's obviously a lot more that we've built powered by Contentsquare's raw data export and field analytics. And if you're looking to learn more about the solutions that we talked about today or our greater library of solutions for Contentsquare customers, I encourage you to reach out to Jason or your account exec to get in touch with us for a demo and to learn more. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Jack and Jason. That was great. And thank you everyone else for joining. We just have a few more updates to give you about our next upcoming webinars and some valuable information for you as well. So make sure to, go to our Contentsquare online community. That's where you could find all our past events, our upcoming events. You could watch recordings. And if you do want to hear from a Contentsquare person more about field analytics, get an email or call about it, please answer our poll that will launch now so we have your information, and we'll make sure that somebody reaches out to you to give you more info if you are interested in more about our field analytics data products. And I'll just give you guys another few minutes or a minute to answer this, and then I'll tell you a little bit about our upcoming events that you guys might be interested in as well. All right, so these are all our upcoming events. We have on October 4th webinar, how to improve your site experience. It's going to focus on speed analysis and core web vitals. Then following that is on October 6th, product education webinar. It's about website traffic sources, and all these links will be dropped in the chat. Maya's working on that now. And then coming up October 6th, 11th, 13th, and 18th, it's our virtual training program. We host this every quarter. It's a great overview about the fundamentals of Contentsquare. If you have any new people on your team that just want to learn, the fundamentals, this is a great program for them to attend. It's 1 hour session on each of those days, and that last day you get certified and you have a nice little certification you can put on your LinkedIn. And then we have our CX Circle, which is our flagship event. I think we have over 15 client accounts participating and speaking. It's going to be a great event, lots of cool topics. So check out that link. You can see all the different breakout sessions we'll be having. And then right here in the middle, these are our next 3 sessions coming up for our data products web series. We'll have omni-channel attribution, 360 behavioral analytics, and live signals, all dates to come. The first 2 will be in November, beginning and end, and then the last one will be rounding out the year in December. Thank you guys again for joining. I hope this was beneficial. We're really excited about this data products webinar series. This was all based on feedback you guys gave us, and we built it around what you guys wanted to hear about. So thank you for joining, and we hope to see you guys in our upcoming sessions as well.